Hello, friends. Welcome back to Beyond the Contract. I'm so excited to be here today. Joining us is the 2026 president of the Realtors Association of Metropolitan Pittsburgh and my friend Dale Swanton. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Great, great. We've worked together now for many years
Yes,
at the
yeah. I
association.
remember when we were back on YPN chairs many, many years ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
and one thing leads to another, and here we are in
yeah,
leadership.
back-to-back presidents.
Yes, yes. Well, it's been so great. We've been really lucky with the
Yeah,
folks
we
we've
have.
had around in leadership and on the board. It's been, great to be friends and like-minded individuals who really want what's best for the association
Yeah,
and raising the bar of professionalism for our industry.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's good to see a new generation stepping up as well. That's
Yes.
always been one of the criticisms of the association, and I think organizations in general, that it's an older crowd typically, but it's nice to see that we've had a lot of younger millennials start to step up and really embrace that.
It's great. Yes, we need your voice. We need participation. And
Absolutely.
we'll touch on a little bit about all of the advocacy work that is so important, truly going beyond the contract like we
Yeah.
do at the
Yeah.
association with our work. And tell me a little bit about what inspired you to get involved.
Well, for me, I think it was a realization about how much the association actually does to support the real estate industry.
Mhm.
One of the things that drives me nuts now, and I'm sure you get this as well, is when you talk to agents and they say, "Well, I just pay my dues and they don't do anything for me." Like it's just a money grab type of thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, it's like if you get in there and you actually go to one meeting and look at the different things that the association does, it's really incredible how much goes on. And the big focus of the association is on the advocacy front.
Mhm.
And that to me is like real estate has allowed you to make a living and be successful and have a career. Why wouldn't you want to see that continue? And why wouldn't you want to support that industry? Like to me, that's like a no brainer, right?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. You hit the nail on the head there with that. It's just so important to be involved in your community, in legislation, because those are the changes that directly affect our business months and years down the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the one example I use a lot is even just recently, you're probably familiar with the big beautiful bill that passed
Of
last
course.
year, and whether you think it was beautiful or not is it doesn't really matter. But if you're in the real estate industry, you benefited from that, right?
Mhm.
Because that bill, one of the pieces in there, extended the qualifying business deduction on your taxes, right? So
Right.
and so that was set to expire at the end of 2025. It's now been made permanent. So every real estate agent, every independent contractor out there that makes money in real estate can now continue to deduct whatever percent. I think it's 20% of their qualified business income
Mhm.
on their taxes. So that
Mhm.
right there saves you a lot of money. I mean, if you're a full time agent, that's thousands of dollars that it's
Sure.
saving you. That's what your $500 a year dues gets you. And that's
Right.
just one thing, right? I mean,
Exactly.
there's so many other things that the association does on top of that, but that's the most
Mhm.
tangible example, I think,
Right.
that I like to share with people.
That's a great point. And again, learning about your elected officials beforehand, what do they stand for,
Yeah.
participating and supporting. I think, we always see how strong the real estate industry is when we go to Harrisburg, which is
Hmm.
coming up
Yeah.
in June. We go to something called Hill Day, where realtors from across Pennsylvania get together and we meet with our elected officials, our representatives, our senators, and the real estate industry is one of the very few industries that command bipartisan support. And
Yeah.
it is very important to have those meetings. We're sitting face to face, just like we are now, and the officials are interested in knowing what their constituents are interested in.
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, like real estate really crosses the aisle. I mean, it affects everybody. And we've talked about housing affordability. That's one of the big pushes for me, because it's getting harder and harder for young people to buy homes. I mean, you're probably familiar with the profile of home buyers and sellers that NAR puts out every year.
Hmm.
The average age of a first-time home buyer is at an all-time high. It's like 40 years old.
Hmm.
Back when I started in 2012, it was like 25, I think.
Hmm.
And so every year it just keeps going up and up. And that dream of home ownership is just becoming harder and harder for so many people. And so that's why I agree. It's important to be able to get some face time with those folks and share the stories that we have of people that we've interacted with that maybe, can't afford to buy the house because their closing costs are too high, or whatever the reason may be. And it really does matter. I mean, Pittsburgh, especially, we've been very successful in getting various bills passed, because our members have come to us with problems, and we say, okay, we agree that those are problems. Let's take that to the people that can actually make a difference.
Hmm.
And we've done that, and we've been able, we've had some successes in recent years.
We absolutely
It's a
have.
slow process,
Yes.
which is something that certainly drives me nuts. There's a couple of bills that I am a huge advocate for that have just been kind of languishing the last couple of years,
Mhm.
that I would like to try to do something about. I've brought it up in meetings, but for various reasons, we just can't get these things over the finish line.
Mhm. But it's important to stay dedicated as you do,
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
most of us do, and year after year, and eventually then we see some action and some movement. You mentioned something that's such a hot topic anymore is the affordability
Yeah.
crisis, not just in Pittsburgh. And even in Pittsburgh, that we're always touted as one of the most affordable cities, but we're still seeing some struggles.
Yeah.
And why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, affordability is a relative term, right? It
Mhm.
depends on what your cost of living is, and that's been one of the challenges I think for Pittsburgh is that our cost of living has increased, but it's outpaced wage growth by quite a bit. And so even though compared to like a California market where average sale price is, I don't even know what it is, but it's got to be 500 plus.
Mhm.
Here it's 250.
Mhm.
And so certainly if you're coming from a state like that to Pittsburgh, everything looks like it's really affordable. But when you live here and you haven't seen your wage increase in years, but everything else, utilities, groceries, gas, all of those things are going up, it just makes it harder and harder, to actually purchase something.
Right. And so many people they blame interest rates solely, or they blame. I've heard a lot of folks talking about, well, these corporations and industries are buying so many houses to
Hmm.
rent, and they're stealing it directly from first-time home buyers. And there's a lot of mixed reviews on that. And I'm curious to see what you think.
Yeah, certainly contributes to the problem. I don't think you can point to any one single thing that's like that's the reason.
Hmm.
But yeah, certainly those institutional investors, especially around COVID time, 21, 22, it seems like they've kind of dropped off a little bit. But yeah, they were buying up homes left and right for a while, and they were targeting the homes that were right in that first time home buyer price point, that 150 to 250 range. And they would go in and pay cash and no inspections, right? And it's like hard to compete with that if you're a buyer that needs to get a mortgage,
Hmm.
right? And wants to do an inspection because you've never bought a house before, which I mean you should do an inspection, but we know a lot of people don't.
Right.
So yeah, that certainly has contributed to the problem. I think it's a combination of a lot of different things. Again, it's not we can't just point to one single thing and say that's the issue that we need to solve.
I would totally agree because, I hate to single someone out or come after corporate investors that, want to make a business model out of rentals because we're in America and supposed to support free enterprise.
Right,
So,
right.
trying to think of those other factors that we can, as an organization, as professionals, start to help someone work around as a buyer.
Yeah, yeah, and then like another, another issue I just thought of is like new construction. We in Pittsburgh, we are seriously lagging behind many other states in terms of new builds. And so part of it is just legislative issues. There's too many hurdles for permits and things like that. And so that's been a bit of a bottleneck. And as you're aware of, we've at Ramp have started trying to get the city to make some movement on liquidating the properties that they own, right?
Mhm.
So the city owns like 15 to 20,000
Is it
properties.
really that many? Wow,
It
I know
depends on
I've
who
been
you ask. I get
following,
different
yeah.
numbers every time, but it's definitely it's in the tens of thousands.
Wow, isn't that
And
incredible?
it's amazing. And some of those are vacant lots. Some of them are just abandoned properties, or somebody that died without a will, and we can't find
Mm.
any of their heirs, type of thing. So a lot of them have messy titles and owe back taxes and have utility liens and things
Mhm.
like that on them. So it makes it tricky to begin with. But also, I think the city has done a pretty poor job of trying to work with those properties and to try to get them off of their books.
Mhm.
Now, fortunately, the new mayor, Corey, who came in this year, as we've talked to him many times over the years about trying to do something about this.
Mhm.
When he was a city councilman, he was very much in favor of this. And now that he's in the position that he's in, I think we'll be able to make a little bit more headway on that issue. Because Ramp for many years has tried to purchase a property from the city as kind of like a proof of concept to say, here we can take a property that the city has on its books, we can rehab it, put it back on the market, sell it as affordable housing,
Mhm.
and we can, one, make the numbers work, two, not disrupt the neighborhoods that are concerned about like gentrification and things like that,
Mhm.
and three, we put this property back on the city's tax roll where it actually starts to generate money for the city.
Mhm.
So it's kind of a win all around if we can get that to work. It's just a
Sure.
very, very slow process.
Sure. I know you were mentioning some of the bills that are sitting, waiting in the wings. What are
Yeah.
those?
Yeah, there's several that are in various stages. I think some of them have passed the House and not the Senate. Some
Mm.
of them the other way around. But there's two in particular that I'm a big proponent of. The first one would waive the state transfer tax for first-time home buyers.
Mm.
And for me, like when I talk to first-time buyers, one of the biggest hurdles for them is not the monthly payment,
Mhm.
it's the closing costs,
Yes, it's a
that
huge
can
amount.
be, yeah, 15, 20,000 or more out of pocket. And, what we found is especially people that are like long-term renters, they might make a lot of money, so they qualify for a high mortgage, but because so much of their money is going to pay their rent and their bills and all those things, they don't have a lot of savings.
Mhm.
And so anything that we can do to kind of lower the closing cost, I think is going to have a huge impact.
Mhm.
And so that one bill, it would waive the 1% transfer tax at the state level.
Wow.
The problem is that it's obviously that money has to come from somewhere,
Right.
and finding the allocations and getting all of the legislators on board with spending whatever amount of money that is difficult. So that one, I believe it passed the House and is just kind of waiting on the Senate. The other one that I really like is a first time home buyer savings account.
Mm.
So this one would create it's a savings account that would be with the state, and any money that you put in there is tax free on your state income
Oh,
tax,
wow.
um, but it has to be used towards the purchase of a home. Okay, so you can put money in there. Your parents or whoever can add money to it, but in order to take the money out, it has to be going towards the purchase of a house.
Mm.
So again, that's just another little thing that's going to save some money for these folks that are trying to afford the down payment and the closing costs on a home.
Well, those
So
would be a tremendous,
yeah, if we can get either or both of those passed, I think it's going to make a huge difference. I mean, that has some very real world implications for people.
absolutely. I mean, in Allegheny County alone, by the time you do the state and the local transfer tax, that's 5% of your purchase price,
Yeah,
which is a lot of money, and
yeah,
not including anything else that you feel. okay, I have to pay for an inspection. Okay, I have to pay for an appraisal. Those things that sort
Your
of
down
make
payment
sense.
and yeah.
The transfer taxes, you're hit with this big chunk.
It's a lot, and the city of Pittsburgh is one of the highest in the state, I believe. It's yeah, like you said,
Mhm,
5% in the city
mhm.
is a lot of money.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I think that would definitely make a difference and again start to maybe move through this bottleneck of making
yeah.
it a bit more affordable for the folks in that sort of crunch.
Hmm.
And we're seeing less and less of that traditional American dream being achieved, which is
Yeah,
why the Realtors Association was started to protect private property rights,
right.
to advocate for the consumer and having a free enterprise really for
Yeah,
your home or your business.
yeah. I mean, that's exactly what the association does. So, if anybody's listening to this is if these things are of interest to you, absolutely get involved. That we need more people that are going to help push these things in their communities and to their lawmakers. That's how we get that's how we get things passed. Like I said before, like a lot of these recent wins that we've had at the state level, they all started in Pittsburgh
Mhm,
from people. There was an issue that they had. They brought it up to somebody.
mhm,
It came over to the board. We brought it to the legislators, and we were able to get real change passed.
mhm.
So it's yeah,
We're very lucky. Our
we are.
association has a great staff and great team that supports our government relations and is busy working hard
Yeah,
days, nights, weekends,
they work very very hard.
nonstop.
Yeah.
And again, we have a lot of support that show up of realtor volunteers, but again, it's dedication to your industry overall. And for someone that is dedicated to their careers, you
Mhm.
want to see it thrive and do better, and so you can come home to the community that you're working in
Yeah.
and see it flourishing.
Yeah, and again, that's why I really like these first-time homebuyer initiatives because, like, that not only has real-world implications for the buyers,
Mhm,
for agents too, right? Like, if you have a buyer that has said, "Hey, I'm going to continue renting because I can't afford to buy a house,"
mhm,
we can get a bill passed. All of a sudden, that person can afford to buy a house. That's another
mhm.
sale that you have, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's a win-win all
Mhm,
around. I mean, it really these are the type of things that I think a lot of agents don't think about.
mhm,
They're focused on, where's my next transaction going to come from
mhm,
and things like that. But it's like if you participate in making the real estate industry just better for everyone,
mhm,
that not only is going to help your business, it's going to help your clients. I mean, it's good for everybody,
mhm.
really.
And that's really the inspiration behind Beyond the Contract when we started working at, instilling that theme and really an invitation for everyone to get
Mhm.
involved, to
Yeah,
go beyond just sale to sale to sale and zoom out a little bit and look at what can we do to contribute to our community. And real estate is so closely tied with our legislation and our
absolutely.
government that
Yeah.
it's important to educate yourself and be aware of the changes and what we can do to make it better.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely. And I was not a politics guy before I got into this, but like
Mhm,
the more I learn and the more I see how things work and how you can actually get things done,
mhm,
the more it kind of excites me and makes me want to, get more involved and push for certain things, because you really can make a difference.
sure.
It's just it takes time, and not everybody wants to put in that time.
Sure.
One of the one of the things I realized becoming president is like you only have a year. It's very
It
hard to get anything done, and as I'm sure you know,
Yes, it goes
very
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 quick.
tough. Yeah,
It goes
yeah.
very
We're
quick.
already in May, and it's like I feel like
I
I haven't done
know.
anything this year.
That's not true. We've
But
done
no, it's
so
just
much.
it's
But
a lot of it is like the intangible things, like you have
Mhm,
meetings, and that leads
mhm,
to some progress on an issue,
mhm.
but you might not see a resolution to that for 2 3 years down the road.
Right.
Um,
And, we have a certain formality to follow and a process with everything that we do. And there's something even that's a learning process I've
mhm.
learned as well. But what's so great, I think, about our team is that my predecessors and the folks coming in line and leadership behind you want to carry on those same sort of goals
Yeah.
and mission. And so we're all working together. And certainly, president is not something you check in and check out of. We were certainly involved for many
Yeah.
years before and will be for many years after to keep moving things forward.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
One of the other things that you are such a great proponent of is education. I know I've
Yes.
taken several of your
Yes. Oh.
classes at the real estate school, and you've just been great. And that's why I think
Thank
your
you.
theme,
Thank
back to
you.
basics, is just so on brand for you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
perfect because some of these classes have been continuing education and things, oh, you're thinking that I've already done that,
Mhm.
but in our industry that's ever changing, certainly there's new things to be aware of
Yeah. Or you
and
just need a refresher on
a great
things. Yeah.
refresher, yeah, of things you're not doing. What are some of your favorite classes to
Yeah.
teach?
Yeah. So, well, my favorite class, I will tell you, is I do one on stigmatized properties,
Oh, isn't
which is
that
really fun
interesting? I have
because
to sign up for
it's
that.
one of those you should. Yeah. It's one of those topics. It's like it's like a paragraph in your textbook when you go to your real estate classes,
Uh-huh.
but you don't really think about it in depth at all. And so it's a really fascinating area. There's been a lot of interesting legal cases, some that have gone to the Supreme Court. I'll give you a little teaser. There's one in New York City, or in New York, where the Supreme Court declared a house legally haunted.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so just things like that I just think are really really fascinating. But
Yes.
again, just not something that you would run into on your day to day. So it's a great continuing ed topic.
Do you remember what the
Um,
criteria was that pushed it to officially?
yeah, basically the owner had advertised for many years that the house was haunted. She had written journal articles like in Reader's Digest, and the house was included on like home tours of like supernatural
Mhm.
hotspots and things. And then when she went to sell it, she was silent on that.
Mm.
And so, of course, the buyer found out and said, well, we want to get out of the contract because of that. And it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court basically said, because you advertise this property as being haunted for so long, as a matter of law, this house is haunted.
Wow.
It's funny, like I show like the headlines from the newspapers the day after, and it's like court believes in ghosts is like the headline.
Oh my gosh.
Because yeah, it was like a very interesting case, and so we look at a lot of things like that. There was a very prominent one in Pennsylvania that went to the PA Supreme Court. That was over the course of like 7 or 8 years. It just wound its way through the different court systems because people kept appealing. But in that one, there was a murder suicide in a house, and investor bought it and kind of bought it for cheap because of that murder suicide, and then did a little bit of a rehab, put it back on the market, and sold it to somebody that was moving from out of state.
Mm.
And so the person that was moving had no idea that there was a murder suicide in the house,
Oh, and they
and
didn't
and
disclose
so no, it
that.
wasn't disclosed.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be. That's the interesting thing is like there's no
Right.
law in Pennsylvania that says you have to disclose a death in the home or any type of
Mm.
stigmatizing event. And so this person sued, and they eventually lost the buyer because there's no
Interesting.
law there. But it's just the fact that it went through so many different
It went that
levels of
far.
appeal and all the way up to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, made it a really big deal. So
That's really
yeah, I've
interesting.
always thought that was an interesting topic,
It
and
is.
again, just not something that most people are going to see on their day to day. Although I think everybody's probably sold a house where somebody passed
Or
away.
something happened,
Yeah, you
sure.
sold an estate or something like that.
Right.
So
Well, I'll add murder suicide cases to beyond the contract
yeah,
topics. I didn't have that on the original docket, but
yeah,
there we go. But it's interesting you bring up a great ethics point of, well, the law is not required to disclose because I believe it reads as any, material or any item that affects the
yeah.
material
Material defect,
defect of
right?
the home. But in a case like that, where it has been publicized or it happened, um, that it could affect the client's decision making process. And to
Absolutely.
save yourself a lot of grief and aggravation and stress, you probably want to move lean always on the side of disclosure.
And honestly, that's exactly what I say in my classes
Mhm.
because it's not required, but who wants to be dragged through the court system for 7 or 8 years,
Right.
right? I mean, just
Costly expense and the
yeah.
stress and
So yeah, I always am a big proponent of disclosing or over disclosing things like that because people will find out. As soon as they move in, the neighbor comes over. Oh, you bought the murder house, like
right.
you know. You're gonna find out at some
Right,
point.
right. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
dealt with a few of those properties and we've had the conversation about it. It can be challenging but then the buyer takes their own course,
Hmm.
right? They say, you know what, this is just flat out not for me. I even had someone bring in a medium to
Oh,
walk
that's
through the
fun.
house
Yeah.
and talk through it with them, but that suited that buyer and that's what they wanted.
Hmm.
And we were all protected in that way because we had that conversation and
Yeah.
she was able to perform the inspections or whatever she needed to, have that done. So it covers you and it's safe.
It is interesting to see, and certainly like the way that homes are built. Where I grew up in Maine, I mean, a lot of the homes are that like New England style with wood siding,
Mm.
and it requires different maintenance, and you have to know different things when you're buying there. And it's like I guess it kind of goes to show you how much you should lean on a real estate agent to help you, somebody that knows the area. Because if I were a buyer and I was moving to some of these places and had never, you don't even know what to ask about some of the times.
That's right.
Like I talk about sewer scans all the time,
Mhm.
and some people just they don't even know what that is or why they should do it or
Right. Our
um,
infrastructure is so much older than
yeah.
many other cities in the
Right,
United
right.
States. We have things like radon that other places aren't
Big issue in
concerned
Western PA,
about.
yeah.
Yeah, so the local knowledge and having those conversations with someone that understands all of those surrounding factors
Mhm.
is so important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Talk anything more about your bio or your inspiration to
Yeah, I can talk about
um
my, more about my theme and kinda like my story if you want.
yeah, I like
Um,
that. And then we'll probably jump to um maybe if do you want to talk about our day in the golf outing a
sure,
little bit?
sure.
I forget what our other.
I think AI was in there.
Yeah, but
Um,
education, if you want to do more of like your education and mission to, yeah,
well, let's start with my story, and I can go from there and see
okay,
how that 'cause there's a lot. I mean, I could talk about that for
yeah,
an hour by
yeah,
itself, so,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Um, trying to think how to open if it's different. So you're obviously very passionate, not just about real estate, but education, professionalism, and really driving home the point of education this year.
Mhm.
And we've seen that in our classes, and hopefully more folks getting involved to get back to basics. What
Yeah,
inspired you
yeah.
for that, Dale?
Well, so back to basics, like for me, has always been kind of like a mantra almost for my business because as I told you, I moved here from out of state. I
Mm.
knew all of three people when I moved to Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah, and so trying to be a new agent in that environment, we have no sphere to kind of help you. I was basically just cold calling,
Wow.
for sale by owners, expireds, open houses. That was my whole business plan for the first few
Wow.
years.
That's hard work.
It was tough, and so like I'll in certain times in your business you get slower because you're working on managing your deals and you're not prospecting like you should.
Hmm.
And so I always have in the back of my mind like, okay, back to basics. Let's focus on the things that like got you the business to start with,
Hmm.
and do more of that. And it's managing the things that actually matter, that are going to really help you move the needle. And when I was trying to write a speech for the association and trying to come up with a theme, that was one of the first things that popped into my head. And it really fit with the association too, because there's so many challenges in the industry right now. There's all kinds of lawsuits. There's technology changes. I mean, everybody says that AI is going to replace us. And you have all these mergers going on now, and it's just there's so many things that if you're focusing on those things, it's very easy to get like bogged down
Mhm.
and ignore what's actually important. And so that was the whole kind of idea behind the theme, and it fit perfectly with the association, I think.
It does, and it came just in time, right, when all of those things seem so overwhelming to deal with, and, we say we have about 20% of new agents joining the industry every year.
Yeah.
So it's so important to constantly be educating and refreshing on the basics as an association, as a brokerage. That's a lot. That's a high number. And
Yeah.
they're not young students necessarily. They're maybe shifting careers, some, early retirees,
Hmm.
and it's really folks from all over the board. But I
Yeah.
think that's so important. And again, it came just in time when we all needed some hope.
Yeah, yeah, and when I was writing my speech, I had my theme, and I knew I wanted to talk about my childhood partly because I remember in your speech you had that great story about the building in, I think it was the South Side, that your family had rehabbed and you won an
Mhm.
award for it, and that was very meaningful to you and real estate related,
Yep.
and I'm a first generation realtor. So, like, I didn't have that kind of family history, but I had a kind of an interesting upbringing, and I thought that that would be an interesting one to share with everybody. And so, if anybody listening was not at my installation,
It was a great
basically,
story.
thank you. I'll tell an abridged version of it because it's just fascinating. In the late '60s, early '70s, my parents were living in Houston, Texas, and my dad was working for NASA, and he left there, and they decided to purchase a boat, and they lived on this boat for almost 20 years.
Wow.
It was really, I mean, I think it took a lot of guts to
Sure.
just uproot your life and just go live at sea.
They were brave. Yes.
But yeah, it was a really incredible boat. It was all wood. It was a hybrid, so it was like a mix of a diesel engine and then a sailboat. So you
Okay.
could never you never get stranded. Like if you ran out of gas, you just hoist the sails and keep going,
Well, that's good.
right? And they basically went around the Caribbean. They lived in that area, and they offered charters to anybody that wanted to go anywhere in the Caribbean. They would take them there for a fee.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that area, if you're familiar with, there's a lot of small islands.
Mhm.
A lot of them don't have airports, so the only way to get there is by
True.
boat. And so it was it kind of filled a niche that was needed, and they loved it. It's a very kind of freeing lifestyle. But then, of course, kids came along in the '80s, and eventually they said, "Well, we gotta maybe move ashore and can't live on a boat forever."
Wow. No, there were
Um,
3 of you,
there
right?
were three at one
Yeah.
point,
Oh
yeah.
my
And
goodness.
this is a funny story. So one of my earliest childhood memories actually is of me on the back of the boat while we're underway, and I have a big tub of toys, and most of my toys, of course, were like boats, right? And my thought process was, hey, boats, they belong in the water, right? So I started throwing them in one by one. And I just remember this like long trail of boats, like kind of fading off into the distance. And of course, my parents didn't realize this until they were completely gone. And at that point, like you can't just turn around and go and pick them up. So I threw all my toys away, basically.
Gosh.
But that was one of like my first memories. But then we moved ashore. My family has had a house in on an island in Maine for I don't know how many years. 1870 they first purchased it.
Wow.
Somebody in my family, and it's just been kind of passed down in the generations.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, it's really interesting, and it's one of those. It's all wood. It's got the wood siding.
Wow.
A lot of things are original. The windows are all original. I mean, it's a very historic property.
Yeah.
But the tie-in with my theme was, and I didn't even realize this until I started writing,
Mhm.
and I got to the point because I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about my childhood homes, and then talk about my theme, and like there wasn't a really good segue in between there. And the more I thought about it, I was like, oh wait, yeah, this really fits in. And so what happened was over the years, we had the boat. We kind of anchored it offshore, and we would go out on it every now and again, and come back. It was kind of like in the summertime. It was, just a fun thing to do on the weekends.
Sure.
And over the years, as my siblings and I got older, we kind of stopped using the boat as much,
Mhm.
and my parents started to kind of neglect the maintenance that it needed.
Mhm.
And all of their focus was on the house because that 150-year-old house, like, it needs a lot of maintenance. So
Right.
that was the main focus. And long story short, eventually the boat just sank right
My
in front of our
goodness.
house,
My goodness.
because it had been neglected, and the hull eventually had a leak, and it just right into the water.
Yeah.
And so the kind of the moral of that story is that you have to focus on the things that make a difference, because
Mhm.
otherwise whatever you're working on might not be there, right? I mean, if you're
Right.
talking about a house, you're not going to remodel the kitchen before you make sure the foundation is sound, right?
Mhm.
So it's focusing on those like core things that really make a difference in a
Mhm.
house or an association or your business or whatever it is.
Right.
And so that ended up being the tie-in to the theme, and I think it came out pretty well,
I
I
think
thought.
so. It was a great metaphor
Yeah, thank
because,
you.
again, working on the foundation or the support beams, it's not always the prettiest job that comes first to mind, but,
And I think
you
that's
know,
the important
a
takeaway
a
is that
glittery
it's
bathroom renovation is
yeah,
gonna mean nothing if the foundation isn't
yeah,
supported, and it really is a great analogy of the work that, again, sometimes we have to do
yeah,
to, maintain our careers and maintain being ahead of things coming, down the
yeah.
lane, really, especially with legislation, like how long it can take, we might another year has passed, and there'll be some topics we talk about at Hill Day that we've already talked about
Mhm.
for a
Yeah,
while, but,
yeah,
remaining patient and dedicated, I
right.
think, is really the
Yeah,
only way.
it's when you stop talking about those things that they start to get overwhelming, and then, if you're not, combating those issues that are preventing people from getting into homes,
Mhm.
eventually it all just snowballs, and then before long, nobody can afford a home, right? It's
Right,
all gonna be corporate owned or something.
right.
Um,
That's a great point.
so it takes that constant effort, and I think our
Mhm,
association does a fantastic job overall. We
mhm.
have a lot of participation. I think we're pretty good at getting the message out. We could always be better in that regard,
Yeah,
but
well, that's why we're here
yeah,
today, to keep
yeah,
talking about
absolutely,
it and get the
yeah.
word out and get as much involvement as we can. Now, we don't always just have boring tasks at hand. We do have some fun
Sometimes we
things.
have fun.
We
Yeah,
have the YPN, which you're very involved in, which is the Young Professionals Network, and that is really open to everyone. It's young at heart.
yes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
we always talk about this, like, we need to figure out a better name for
Right.
it because everybody hears young and they're like, "Well, I'm too old." And like,
Right. You're never
okay,
too old.
yeah, you're never too old. It's more like new people to the business, but even then, it's not
Right.
just that. It's really is open to everybody,
Well,
so
what's
we do
great
need
is
a more inclusive
integrating
name.
those. Exactly. We'll work on that. We'll send that to the DEI committee and come
Yeah,
up with a more inclusive
yeah,
name for
yeah, we
for
definitely need to
that.
work
But
on that.
it is integrating those new agents with some of the seasoned
Yeah,
agents. And what better way to make a friend and a colleague in the industry that you can learn from? At so many of our committee meetings we learn so much, not just from, the news topics we bring to the table initially, but just from the conversation that sort of um, organically occurs.
oh,
So
yeah.
and so had an LOI and it was written like this, and would you take it, like
Mhm.
that? No, I would do it like this, and that's actually too how a lot of changes get made. Dominic and I are working on the forms committee on the state,
Oh, for the
so
commercial forms.
right.
Oh, God
So
bless
that
you.
is where, everyone's so quickly, hurriedly reaching
Mhm.
when they have a transaction to hurry up and fill out. But those need updated as well as our industry
Yeah.
changes.
Well, and that's a good point with the forms is like, if you're not involved, you're just going to see all of a sudden, one day the form just gets updated.
Mhm.
And then you have the people that will call and say, well, why did they do this? Why didn't they do that? And it's like, you could have been involved in that
Mhm.
process if you wanted to be, right? It's like,
Right.
um, and to your point, you do learn so much
So much.
from interacting with other agents, and even though we're all competitors in a sense, right? Like,
Mhm.
but I think there's a lot of camaraderie
There
in
is.
the association. You kind of leave your brokerage hat at the door,
Mhm.
and you just come in as hey, I'm a practitioner in this industry, just like you are. Doesn't matter if you're a top producer or brand new.
Mhm.
Everybody has ideas and everybody shares. And again, YPN is a fantastic committee that we have. I mean, and you remember back in the day when you and I were on
Right, that's one of
YPN.
the first places we
Yeah,
started,
yeah,
and you talk
and
about getting involved, and I had grown up in Pittsburgh, but I lived away for many years too, so I was trying to find a way to, get involved, and that was one of the first things I did as well.
yeah, and they've come a long way with the events that
Mhm,
they do. I mean, they're doing some really great things like business development type of events. I think there's
mhm,
actually an event tomorrow, I believe,
mhm.
and it's on negotiating. And they have a panel of some of the top agents in Pittsburgh that are going to come and talk about how they negotiate deals.
Yeah, that's
I
great,
mean,
you learn so
it's
much.
incredible to have access to those folks, and and they love to come and talk. I mean, what
Mhm,
real estate agent, what salesperson
mhm.
doesn't love to come and talk about themselves,
Right.
right? Like it's
And
and
how they can
it's
help and how
yeah,
they can
yeah.
collaborate, and sometimes we have other affiliated businesses that
Hmm.
that work hand in hand, a resource that you might need or a resource that your client might need too.
Yeah.
And so coming up this fall, we'll have Realtor Day. That is our
Yes.
annual
Yeah.
event, which focuses heavily on education and professionalism, and is sort of an update as well of our annual meeting for our
Yeah.
board of directors. It's so important, and I'm not sure too if everyone realizes that how important it is to know what your association that you're a part of, what they're doing to
Right.
work for you.
Right. Yeah. That is our biggest event of the year. So, like, if anybody watching this, if you come to one thing all year, it should be our day because that really is where you get the updates from the association, everything that we've been working on for the year.
Mhm.
You also will have some great education opportunities. We're having this year a legal panel where we
Oh, that's
have
great.
some of the top real estate attorneys in the Pittsburgh area that are going to come in and talk about various issues. And there's a lot out there. I mean, there's a lot of topics that they can choose from, but
Right.
that's always a fascinating class to attend. We also, our keynote speaker is Lucas Pyatt. So if you've been anywhere around Pittsburgh real estate, I mean, you know the Pyatt name. I mean, they've obviously have a brokerage, but huge developers in Pittsburgh responsible for some of the
Right.
biggest developments in the area. But Lucas is going to talk about the Esplanade project
That's
going
great.
on in the North Shore right now,
That's great, and there's so much
which is
value in
huge. Yeah,
just a few of those things,
yeah,
one alone. But yes, they're innovators, and they believe in Pittsburgh and the future of Pittsburgh, which is really great to see,
yeah,
and exciting to have all of us as
yeah,
just as residents, but especially in the real estate industry.
yeah. And we're
Yes.
very thrilled and lucky to be in a city. This is one of the things I love about Pittsburgh is that it's a fairly big city, but it still has that like small town feel
It does.
where somebody like me can call up somebody like Lucas Pyatt and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, can you come speak at this event?" "Oh yeah, sure, of course." Like
Mhm.
it's just like to me that's
Right.
amazing. Like you couldn't do that in a lot of cities. Like
No,
you
that's
try to call up some random person and say, "Hey, I've never met you, but can you come speak at this event for us?"
right, or they'd be booked out for years or
Yeah,
unaffordable, and it
yeah,
just goes to show you again that they truly believe in the growth of Pittsburgh,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
want to connect with everyone to share their message and all the exciting development coming as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, we're very fortunate here. I
Yeah.
mean, Pittsburgh is like, as you know, like we make all these like top 10 lists for
We
so many different
do. We
things.
do.
And I almost wish they would stop because it's just like it was like a closely guarded secret for a long time, and now I feel like the secret's
Yeah,
out, and
yeah.
everybody's like, okay, Pittsburgh, let's go there. But no, it's great. It's great to see. It really is.
It is great.
I think everybody that lives here, wants to see the city be successful, and for those that grew up in Pittsburgh at a time where it was not what it is today,
Mhm.
I think would especially be very proud of what it's become.
Absolutely. We are so lucky that we have so many people that believe in our city and are working hard every day to make those changes. Some of the regulations that the mayor Corey O'Connor is instituting and working to change, and change takes time. It's again, you don't clock in day one and can make all these changes. It takes time. It takes the support of your community and residents to back you
Yeah,
and advocate for those changes. Yeah. Well, I'll be looking
absolutely.
forward to Realtor Day this year. I can't
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, it should be fantastic. And the other big event that we have coming up is our golf outing.
Yes.
So we do, as you obviously know, because you're the chair of the community service committee.
Yes.
But we do a lot of charitable work,
Mhm.
and the golf outing is our annual event that supports Veterans Place. I think you just took a
Mhm.
tour of Veterans
We
Place, right?
did. We just took a very lovely tour. I have done it several times before, but it has been great to see their evolution and their growth over the years. And they depend on a lot of, primarily community partners like
Yeah.
us, other companies to come in and volunteer or raise money. Our golf outing is organized strictly by Realtor volunteers. And we try to make it as affordable as possible, but the point is to raise money that goes directly
Right.
to Veterans Place to help support their mission, which the more you learn about it, the more you realize how important it is. These are our veterans who sacrificed their lives for our country, and so many of them are in an unfortunate situation. It is almost criminal, you could say.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the points I learned, I believe that if you're not in active duty, that you aren't guaranteed health insurance.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
that seems incredibly unfair.
Yeah.
So that is one of the catalysts to, perhaps someone that served having some health complications or injuries and not being able to take care of themselves or afford care. And one thing leads to another, and why a lot end up in such an unfortunate situation. But that is just one of the aspects that they work to help, either the volunteers or the staff there. They just built a new medical building, which
Oh,
has a
wow.
gym,
Okay.
some doctors and medical staff that come on site, and trying to get them, the care that they need and the care that they deserve. And so that was great to see. And the other aspect was I believe they call it the Workforce Education Building,
Hmm.
which was built with contributions in large part by Duquesne Light, I believe. And it is set up where they have their counselors there to help the veterans figure out their resume,
Hmm.
what to wear, what kind of jobs to apply for, and take those next steps.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough too to meet someone who had stayed at the facility. They have some transitional housing there that they provide, which is always full.
I'm sure.
And he was getting a new apartment, so he
Oh,
was
very nice.
leaving that day and
Yeah.
moving and taking the steps to integrating back onto a path of success and feeling valued. But again, back to the medical care, it's just it's such an easy deciding factor that
Hmm.
makes such a difference in their
Yeah.
lives. So
Yeah.
it's really is a great organization. They're doing such good hard work, and yeah, would love everyone to come out to the golf outing and August 4th this summer
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
meet some of your friends, network with our colleagues, realtor affiliates, and support a good cause at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I will not be golfing, but I will drive the golf cart.
Yes.
That's about the only thing I can drive.
I drive a
But
presidential motorcade.
yeah,
Dominic will be in there, and
okay.
perhaps he'll permit you to sit along with us.
I can only hope.
Yeah,
But
but
yeah,
that'll be a great day.
it'll be a great event and an even better cause.
Great day, yeah. We take great pride in our community partnerships that we've established
Yeah,
over the years, and Veterans Place is again, housing related, but so much more,
yeah,
so much more.
yeah. And I think it's important to give back to the community. I mean, it's where we live, and it's like, you want to see everybody be successful. And like you said with the veterans, like I was shocked to learn that oftentimes veterans are coming out of military service and they get discriminated against in the workforce because they don't have they have a gap from when they went to school, or they have the skills, but the skills are a little bit different because they were, they're were taught in a military setting versus
Hmm.
a business setting.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind that you would have somebody like that coming in, and you wouldn't want somebody with that type of diversity and experience to
Right.
be a part of your company. I mean,
Right.
so yeah, I think it's incredible the work that Veterans Place does, and we're very, very happy to support
Yeah.
them.
We'll enjoy continuing to support them throughout the years.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Dale, for joining
it's
us.
my
You've
pleasure.
brought some great information to light, and great to know some of the things that our association is busy working on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're grateful for your leadership and bringing us back to basics.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will say I'm very happy that you have decided to start a podcast. It
Thank
is
you.
absolutely incredible. And I will tell you, for as long as I've been involved with the association, every year the president has a theme, and I don't think anybody's theme has quite embodied, or president has embodied their theme quite like you have.
Oh, well, thank
And I'm
you.
glad you've taken that and expanded it and run with it,
Thank you so
beyond
much.
just being president. So
I really appreciate
yeah,
that. Yeah, it is a mission that I'm very passionate about, and needs to be shared.
good, good.
Thank
Well, I
you.
wish you all the success in the world,
Thank
and
you so much,
thank you for
Dale.
having. I will say I'm a little upset that I had to follow Dominic,
Well,
because this happened to me at my installation too. And Dominic's always like very well put together and very well spoken and looks good on camera, and it's just a tough act to follow all around. So
well,
if I could give you any critique, I
yeah.
would say next time just put Dominic last, and then
Okay.
let the rest of us go. So,
I'll send him a memo.
yes, please do. Please
Oh,
do.
you are so insightful and articulate, and a great teacher too.
Thank you.
And I think that is what makes a great leader, is being a great teacher and knowing, again, the points to focus on, and how to inspire someone that's been in the industry now almost 20 years. I just took one of your continuing education classes last year, and I learned something,
Good. Good.
and
I'm glad.
someone that just entered the industry is learning something. So that's a big gap to fill, and you do a great job at that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, I'll see you at the board meeting soon. Is that next
Yes.
week?
Yeah, I think it is already.
All right,
It's
great. Well, we'll have
sneaks up
more.
on you.
Yeah, we'll have more news and topics to talk about after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you.